so many that lost their businesses during that time.
Well, good morning for a Friday morning in Arizona is gorgeous. It's a really, really pretty morning. Nice and sunshiny, and I know a lot of people all around the country are not experiencing that. So welcome to our Spotlight Studio. This is where we serve authors with giving them the best of the best information. We showcase our authors, which we're going to be doing today with David Medansky. He's a published author many times over. He's even getting a TV show or maybe a big production on TV. And so we'll let him explain what's happening with that. And we also bring experts that support authors and have the tools and resources that the authors need to keep that book selling. So we are just delighted for those that will be watching this or will watch it after it's recorded and produced. And welcome to the show. Let's open up the conversation. And David, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm David Medansky, the Health Maestro, and thank you for having me as a guest on the show today, Becky.
My pleasure. And tell us about your books.
I've written several books. I'm a former divorce attorney, and I'm a world-class expert at play casino craps. So I wrote 6 books on that. My teaching manual is Holy Craps, and then I wrote a couple novels. One is Dark Money, which we're converting into a possible mini-series for TV or TV series. And then also I wrote the book, If Not Now, When? Create a Healthy Lifestyle and Reduce Weight in 90 Days, which you helped me publish. And I'm very grateful for that. And working on another new book about weight loss called The Dark Side of Dieting.
Awesome. Very good. Well, we'll go into that conversation in a moment. And Lorenzo, can you introduce yourself, please? And
sure. Happy to do
what
that.
you do.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Becky, for having me on. This is round 2. I'm so blessed to have you in my life, both personally and professionally, and happy to be here. I am a founder of a company called Shape Shift World, where we say you have to shift the way you think to shape your world. And so I've also had a pleasure and blessing of meeting David. So this is an awesome show to be on. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Very good. Well, we're going to first give all the limelight to David. So I'll put you in the background for a little while, Lorenzo, not because you're not important, but it's just simply because we want a good conversation and really be able to share with
Pleasure.
you. There we go. All right. And so let me put this in the background and take both of us out for just a minute. So David, you've been writing for a long time. You've been using that as really some amazing stuff that you've been able to do in our world. And we always say that authors are here to make a difference in the world and to expand their influence and their expertise. And you've done some pretty amazing things. The last book you published, If Not Now, When? You created a course around it. Could you tell our listeners more about this, what you did with this book?
Well, I took the book and I created the course. And the course is 21-day jumpstart for healthy weight loss. And the reason I call it a jumpstart is most habits take 66 days on average to create a new one. And as most people know, hard habits or bad habits are hard to break, and good habits are hard to create and keep. So the course is for people who just need guidance. You don't need to buy any special meals or products or weight loss supplements. There's no counting calories. There's not even a specific exercise program you have to follow. And the reason I did this course is because diets are designed to fail. As we know, diets are temporary, extreme, hard to stick with, and some of them are potentially dangerous. So I felt it was important to teach people how to lose weight in a healthy and sustainable manner. My journey began in 2016 when my doctor told me, based on my lab results and being significantly overweight, I had a 95% chance for a heart attack. And he gave me two options: lose weight or find a new doctor. So with that sword hanging over my head, I chose to lose the weight, and I shed 50 pounds during the next 4 months.
That's
Now,
amazing.
normally being in the 95% percentile is a good thing, except when it's a death sentence.
When it's the other way around, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And what I learned, I was always fit and healthy like most people growing up, and then life gets in the way, and before I realized that the weight crept up on me, and that's why I had gained an extra 50 pounds. So I went back and started rereading the books that I read in the 70s on healthy weight loss by Paul and Patricia Bragg, Richard Simmons, Jack LaLanne. And then I started reading current books. And then I realized the current books had a lot of misinformation, and a lot of them were using it just for promoting their own products. So that's why I wrote the first book, Discover Your Thinner Self, which is my journey into how I lost weight. And then the If Not Now When is more of a not only what to do, but how to do it. And then I found people need guidance with the course.
Oh, we certainly do. When we're on that journey, sometimes it's difficult to stay with it. Sometimes there's a lot of external factors that enter in that kind of can throw you off. And I've watched people that go on these horrible diets, and they may lose a lot of weight, but then it'll come right back if they don't stick with it. And that is just so discouraging.
Well, 90% of people who lose weight on a diet gain it back, some even more. And the reason being is, think of a diet as a sprint. It has a finish line. And when people get to their goal and the finish line, they revert back to their old eating habits. However, if you change your lifestyle and start eating healthy, the weight will come off. And keeping a healthy lifestyle is like running a marathon, except there's no finish line. You just keep going and going. So that's the distinction between a diet and a healthy lifestyle. And that's why I tell people, you don't want to go on a diet. You want to change your eating habits and improve them. And you want to do it gradually. Think of it this way. If I asked your audience if they'd like to weigh 20, 30, 40 pounds or more lighter by this time next year, I'm sure most of them would say, yes, of course. Well, if you lose 2, 3, 4 pounds a month, I would think most people would say, I could do that. That's achievable. And if you do that on average for 12 consecutive months, that's 24 to 48 pounds lighter by that time next year. What happens is we see the national commercials of national brands on TV and radio, and they say, guaranteed lose 20 pounds your first month. That's sustainable. And then you're eating their products, and it's a way for them to make money. And it's not necessarily healthy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've seen so much of that and experienced it for myself. So, David, you've done some interesting things with that book. You've not only got good endorsements, but you also found ways to get your book into corporate America. And I know you had quite a campaign that you used. Could you describe what you did with that?
Well, I sent out the copies of the book as a gift with several copies, about 5 copies to executives in different companies, and just asked if they would read it or share it with their staff and get their opinion to see what they thought of it. And if they felt it was worthwhile, then they could, order it in bulk and get a reduced price. So that was one thing I did. The other thing I did before COVID was I was attending health expos and fairs at corporations and then promoting it that way. So there's a lot of different ways you can promote it. Everything's changed because of COVID, so it's more an online presence. And what I've been doing more is on my website, putting up some blogs that are a lot of information for people to read. So it gives them a flavor of who I am, my style, and see if we're a good fit for each other. And then I offer a free consultation with people if they want to talk to me, so that they, can make an informed decision as opposed to reading something on the internet or, watching a TV commercial.
I think that you took the course with the wealthy barber. What was his? The name just totally right out my brain. But he wrote the book, The Wealthy Barber, And he had a course that, in fact, I'll be showcasing him coming up on one of these shows about getting books into corporate.
Yeah, that was Dave Chilton. That's how I learned.
That's it. Okay.
That's
Yes.
how I learned from Dave Chilton. I took his course. It was worth every penny. I don't know what the price is now. At the time, it was $197. I've kept in touch with Dave and his son. I sent them copies of the book. Normally, he doesn't respond to authors because he's inundated and overwhelmed, and that's why he developed the course to teach people. And it's well worth it, and I highly recommend it because it goes from A to Z, and also it would probably help you as a publisher if you want to be.
Yes, I actually offer it to my authors right in the package because it's so beneficial. And most of us don't even know these things that exist, these wonderful bits of information, and there's a lot of misinformation in the publishing realm, and there's a lot of tools right at our disposal if we just know how to use them.
Exactly. And not only is there misinformation, there's a lot of potentially unethical people out there looking to take your money. I've been down that road. My first book was Craps, a Winning Strategy. It was only 57 pages, and I paid them $3,000 for that and didn't get any help or guidance or anything what to do. So I've learned along the way how to do things, and I feel blessed and grateful to have come across you and have you as my publisher now, because
you're cool. You're really cool to work with because my focus for all my authors is the marketing that goes behind it. And when an author does the things and even does over and above that, it makes it a lot more fun to work with than people that really want their book published, but they don't put the work behind it to keep that book. We can make it bestseller, we can do all kinds of things, but if they do nothing with it, then it's kind of pointless.
Exactly. The best thing I can tell your audience if they want to write a book is writing a book is the easy part. It's the marketing is the hardest part, and promoting it and then selling it. And so that's where your expertise comes in to help authors. However, they need to follow your advice and guidance. They need to do the work and put in the time and effort to make your job easier, which then makes them more successful.
I always say that thank you for that. I always say that being an author is not for the faint of heart.
But the other thing is you have to decide what type of book you're going to write. There's a different style between writing a novel and writing a nonfiction book such as mine, which is, teaching manual or, a how-to book. And then what are you going to do with the book? What's your purpose in writing it? Some people want to use it as a business card and share information. Some want to use it as a giveaway or promotional item. So exactly what is your purpose and reason for writing the book?
Well, I typically, the first conversations when we have a free discovery session, I tell my authors that they really need to treat their book like it's a business, and it's a tool for business growth. It is not the end all be all. So if it's a nonfiction book, do they have a course that can go with it? Do they have, are they going to use it speaking from the stage? There's so many things that they can do to gain exposure and look for the opportunities. There's so many opportunities right now to really get exposure, and most of it is not in person anymore. It's all online opportunities with summits and podcasts and TV shows like this. There's a lot of ways to get the word out. So tell us I know you have other books, and I know you've got some cool things happening. Share what you're doing with some of the other books that you've published.
Well, Dark Money, like I said, is a novel, and we're converting it to a screenplay, which will be pitched to executives for a web series or a TV series. Right now, they're looking for a lot of content. And so we've hired some other professionals who know what they're doing to help us with the pitch, as opposed to going in cold into the industry. And my business partner, Richard Crawford, has been in the film industry for many years, 30 or 40 years, and he has connections. However, there are still other people that can help us and have, either more knowledge or better connections. So I always like to rely on people who know what they're doing instead of spending the time to try to figure it out myself.
Well, the more you try to figure it out yourself, the more you spend just time, usually fruitlessly.
Exactly. And the way I look at it is, hiring you was an investment in myself and in the book. And you're right, it's a business. So if you're going to invest in your business, it's well worth investing in your services to help people and give them guidance. If I may share how I got started with writing my first weight loss book with the audience, is I was at an event with Rick Frischman called Author 101, and Mike Keeney was on the stage, and he says, here's how you're going to write your book. And he says, write down 10 questions that people should ask you as an expert, and then write down 10 questions people should ask you, however they don't. And then write out an answer, add some stories and quotes, and that's how you can write your book. And each answer should be about 4 pages, which is about 1,000 words. Well, being a craps expert, I started writing down 30 questions on craps. I threw my pencil down. Mike saw me out of about 200 people there. And he says, for those of you looking right at me who don't know what to write about or aren't an expert, think of a life transforming or transformation for you. Well, at that point, that was when I was on my weight loss journey. So I started writing questions about the health, issues and the weight loss. And then the next speaker on stage was a person gets up and he starts out saying, I lost 120 pounds in 5 years. So I went up and talked to him afterwards and said, I have this idea for writing a book, and he encouraged me to do it. And that's what started my journey on writing the book on healthy weight loss. So,
That's interesting because that's how I got started in publishing with Mike Keeney. I used to go back and forth to San Diego and for his classes, his courses. And I started a business right away because it was in the time when the economy was going so crazy, and was looking for just a what do I do next type of thing, and came back and started working with a lot of the local businesses, and then kept going to his classes, and he was talking about publishing a book. It was fun. It was amazing. And at the time, all I knew I was going to publish my own book. I did not know it was going to turn into this amazing business.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it's a lot of work. You have to, put the time and effort into it. You'll hear other people tell you, oh, you can write your book overnight simply by doing quotes and, getting 60 pages. That's all well and good. However, I don't consider that a real book. That's more of a giveaway type thing. If you're going to do it right, get the ISBN number through you, get the publisher, get it edited professionally.
Yeah, everything.
The book cover done professionally. You offer all those services. And so I highly encourage anybody that is thinking about doing a book to reach out to you. And I've done that route of attempting to do everything myself and made a lot of mistakes, and it cost me a lot of money, so people can avoid that.
Thank you. It's really kind of you. One of the things that I so strongly disagree with is these those that teach write a book in over the weekend, or write a book in 90 days or whatever. And I've never seen a whole lot of success with that. It's just like the quality. And I've seen speakers stand on stage touting their book. When you get it, it's nothing more than a walking advertisement. It is not full of rich in content. It's just, go buy this or go do this. And there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. And really, this book is kind of the essence of who you are, and you want it to be to really showcase your wisdom, your expertise, your knowledge on this subject, and weave the storytelling into it to make it successful.
Exactly, and that's the whole premise. Is, do you want to do something that is quality, is a reflection on you, your name's on it, or do you want to do something that people are going to look at and say it wasn't worth the value of what I paid for it? There's other ways people can become a successful author, and that's to become part of an anthology or compilation book where you write a chapter and you pay to be in there, and that's a good start for people. It's interesting because Dr. David Friedman, who wrote Food Sanity, who's an international award-winning bestseller book, has agreed to write the foreword to my upcoming book. So
What was that?
it's an honor. Yeah, it is. And he asked me, why are you writing another book? He says, authors that go through the process usually don't want to spend the extra time, effort, frustration, and investment. Why are you doing it? And so I wrote back saying, here's why I'm doing it. And I want to make an impact and, help people. And he writes back, no, that's what you're doing, but why? And so I thought about it. And what I want to do is leave a legacy, leave, something that will impact lives and people will remember me in the future when I'm not here. And so that's important to me. So that's why I like doing high quality books and using professionals such as yourself to make sure that it is a high quality.
Thank you. I say that there's 5 pillars to a really, really well-written book and a story well told. And that's advocacy, it's unifying, it's truth-telling, it's being a way shower, and it's a legacy maker. And those are the pillars that make a book really successful. But that's when you think of that when you're writing, how can you be an advocate for others? Because maybe somebody picks up that book and discovers suddenly that there's somebody else that went through the same thing they did and came up and figured a way through it and are shining now. And maybe that's all they need to change their lives and make an impact.
Exactly. And I heard the term synchro destiny, where things happen for a reason, and you may have a connection for a reason. And you think back of, the journey. And I remember being at a book fair, and I just asked the person, what book do you recommend? And she says, this book, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And I got the book, I read it, and it changed my life. And because then I started taking the courses that, T. Harv Eker was offering. I read the book, and it started me down the journey of where I am today. And so with my book, Rick Frischman says similar things to you. A book can change a person's life. And I'm hoping that my book, with being healthy eating and healthy weight loss that's sustainable, will save someone's life. And you never know what impact that will have down the road.
No, that's for sure. What a delightful conversation. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll bring in Lorenzo. And I want you to stick around because we'll open up the conversation after Lorenzo's had a few minutes to speak. I'll give him a little bit. But then I'll bring in the conversation too for, just to open it up about the whole entire conversation today. Thank you, David. It's awesome.
Thank you, Becky.
All right, now it's Lorenzo's time, yay! And so Lorenzo and we've known each other for what, 5-6 years now.
It's been a while, yeah.
Maybe longer. And actually, a lot of the things that I offer to my authors, as far as marketing tools and resources, and Lorenzo's the back end guy that makes sure all of that happens. And the reason that is because I've looked for my authors and for myself too, how do I get my message out to the world, but not be, just constantly working super duper hard to continually get that message out. What are the tools and resources that are available that can, number one, kind of automate some of that and to have a farther reach than maybe I've been able to do. And so with that introduction, we're going to open up the conversation of what you're doing now. And I think we were going to talk today about Amy, which is an artificial intelligence
marketing information.
Marketing
information. Amy, the persona Amy is the female robot.
So tell us about what Amy is, and if you want to share your screen at any time, you're welcome to do that.
So let me start there, and let's see what we can do. Actually, let me put on the shades here.
Let me remove myself from the conversation so that you can have a presentation.
I just got to figure out share screen, which screen is going to find. So it looks like I think we're fine. Tell me if we're okay on the screen share. So Becky, I hope we can still hear you. So on Amy, I think the message I want to leave everybody with is social media management is about starting the engagement conversation. So much like David, and I love David. I've actually known David also for around a couple of years. And what he does and how he shows up is consistent. And so I want you to understand that. But that's what happens in social media, is that how you show up, you want to show up consistently. And so the Amy product is just one of the many things that we find that we share that lets our authors and our community at large share information that's consistent with who you are, how you show up, your heart, and your messaging. And it's just social media posting, right? So what's really great is Amy posts to today, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And she will automatically post every month all of your campaigns and all of the things that you've set up. So here's this simple example, and I'll come off of Amy's conversation in the slides in a second, is if you wanted to post inside of an hour over 800 posts, do you think that's possible? Well, with Amy, it is, because once you build out your business profile, your marketing calendar, and your marketing campaign, which is really just minutes. I did all of this for the first time ever inside of 2 hours. Now, that's 2 hours after I learned, the nuances of the product. It's a mobile app. But once I learned it, I did it inside of 2 hours. And now I do over 900 posts. I just did it inside of 30 minutes. And only reason it took me 30 minutes is because I wanted to look at them. I wanted to see what was there. But what Amy really does, and the most important message here, is Amy posts you consistently with the idea of conversation starters, or did you know, or anything around that. So here's a great segue to David's world, right? So I haven't talked to David about this. Amy just launched in the last 2 months. So it's really cool. This is all brand new, hot off the press. But what in David's world, there's a couple different personas or industries that David could use inside of Amy. And I'll show this to him offline. But the idea of health and wellness. So Amy will say, are you losing weight? Are you being healthy? Are you creating the right habits? And those are the conversation starters. Amy will then also post, did you know facts, right? So healthy facts that are coming out of the industry. Amy will also post information about a launch or a book launch or a new book coming, announcements. So these are campaigns or types of posts. You can have unlimited campaigns, unlimited personas, or unlimited business types, and basically unlimited calendars. So really simply put, Becky, it's the coolest thing ever is using a social media tool that can take your day-to-day activities and let you focus on the things that you need to do. And so this is what we brought Amy to life with our partnership. And we're now basically running it out on a global basis. So we're just having fun with it. We provide training around it. So as a tool set, it's mobile today, and eventually we'll be back on a desktop. So have the ability to use your computer or use your phone. And the goal is just to make people aware of the massive value in the input that comes into the books, like David was speaking of. And I love books as well. And I have 3 on the shelf with you, collecting creation dust. But yeah, what you do and how people show up, we just need you to be seen and heard. And so my job is to make that happen for your authors.
Well, you do a magnificent job, and we've had a lot of conversations with our authors about, because there's more than that you offer. The digital business card I showcased yesterday for an upcoming author, and she was so impressed by that simply because she's a practicing attorney. She's crazy busy. She's got this incredible book that she's bringing to the world. That's kind of more fiction based, but it's about the environment. So there's a lot of trueness that goes into. She uses characters to kind of to teach that there's a way to restore our earth by the way we treat our earth. Yeah. And amazing storyline that she has with it. But she was so excited yesterday because the bulk of the conversation was not questioning how, what is in my proposal. It's the extra items that I showcase to show the tools and resources that are available. And that has been one of the best things that's been really happening for me, is that I've been able to bring together, and a lot of our interviews are with people that I work with that serve my authors in a way that helps them to automate, helps them to know that there are things available for them to really ease up on the stress of keeping everything up in the marketing, because it's a lot of work. It's not easy. So what has Amy done for you personally on a personal basis? Have you seen results?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's really great about this, so I was starting to say, and there's so many ways, so many tentacles that we can talk through, but really number one, Amy is a time saver, right? So what I normally would take 6 to 10 to 12 hours a week in making sure that I'm moving postings and my team, we do that across 5 lines of business inside of 2 hours. Okay, so that's now 10 to 12 hours a week that we're saving. So that's now, what am I going to do with that? Well, 2 things that are really important. One is I focus on the other things that are important to the business and growing and scaling the business. But what it really does is lets me, the other portion of that is, how do I create engagement using different kinds of posts, and now using the platforms to really learn and reach out to people. Because the one thing that we all should know and should realize and recognize consistently, that a post is a post. It's just the starting of a conversation of showing it's a check the box now, right? So if my check the box, like having a degree, or check the box, and doing different things, that's checking the box. But the real value is in the relationship. And so now you actually have more time. Time is our biggest, opportunity to now connect with people. So now I can get on the phone, and now I can have one-on-ones. Now I schedule meetings. So inside of Amy, I can say, hey, we should talk. If you want to talk, schedule a call. Here's my DM. Here's my calendar. That's all inside of Amy. So you can imagine your own little mini landing page that shares that information out and tells people how to connect with you. That's the beauty of this. So it saves me time, it gives me efficiencies, but what really does is lets me build my relationships up, because now I have the time to do that.
That's very cool. I'd like to invite David in for this part of the rest of the conversation, just to really talk about these kind of tools and resources and how they serve. So David, I'm welcoming you back to the table. So, I know, David, you work really hard every day. You're in the midst of writing another book. What are the obstacles that you have faced in keeping up with the marketing aspect of
the social media aspect? So I'm extremely excited to learn more from Lorenzo about Amy and how he can help. It's, doing the post on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on everything else out there. I do not have the technical knowledge on doing all of that. I'm comfortable with Facebook and LinkedIn. So that means I have to either hire someone to do the Instagram or the Pinterest or the Twitter accounts, or not do it at all. And you never know which audience is going to be the right audience and where they're actually hanging out. So I'm really super excited to learn about Amy. The other thing is, we're going to be doing a Indiegogo campaign in the near future for the Kindness Kills series. So I definitely want to talk to Lorenzo about that and reaching a wider audience and a different audience than, my own little network. So.
Yeah, it's, back to Mike Koenigs, who got us both started kind of down this path. His motto was always, you everywhere now. And yet to accomplish that, it's like, oh no, I just can't stand another minute with social media, because it just too much, it's too consuming. And a tool like this would be incredibly valuable to be able to, at least keep your presence, keep you front of mind awareness, keep you in the forefront, that you're not just lost somewhere because you can't keep up with your social media.
Exactly. And that's where, I need the help. And that's why, I think people such as Lorenzo offer such a valuable service and can be so beneficial for, saving time. The other thing is when I first started, Amazon owned CreateSpace. And everybody thought, oh, I'll just write my book, publish it through CreateSpace, and it'll be on Amazon, and then I'll sell it. And it doesn't work that way. You have to let people know it's available, and you have to have quality. They would tell people if you sold more than 20 or 25 books, you were doing well. And so,
That's terrible, though.
it is terrible. And that's why, you need to do it the right way. When I published, Crap's the Winning Strategy, the second version of it, I sold over 4,000 copies. And that was before social media really took off. It was, a lot of paid advertisement in magazines and other places in, the gaming industry. And that's how I was able to, sell that many. So it's a lot. So it's a different world right now. And that's why I'm super excited to learn more from Lorenzo about Amy.
Okay, Lorenzo, we're taking over the conversation.
No, I love it. So here's what I want to tell your audience, and it's really important. And Dave and I have talked over the years about how could we serve him and support him. And so this is a great message on two fronts. One is I won't stop trying to find the greatest ways to help have you as an author and as a community be seen, be heard, and be available. So that's my 360-degree view of life, is how do I make you seen, heard, and available? And by doing that is taking your book and bringing it to life. So the other part of that slice of that pie, and this is why I love helping authors, is I also look at it as how do I do that on a website, right? How do we do it on a web platform? How do I do it into a mobile app? And then how do I do it in a disconnected way? Or in social media. So I think the message I would share with you is I love doing what I do, which means I love helping Becky. So that means when you get in part of Becky's world, what you get is all of the things that we've already done for her. So as an author, you're in her mobile app. As an author, you're in her digital business card. As an author, you're in her website, right? The stuff I just said I do. So really, I'm just pleased and tickled because every time I talk to Becky, quite frankly, I have something new that I'm building, but it's always with three things in mind. How can I be of service? How can I do it in a cost-effective way? And how can I do it so I can scale it so that you get, and this is really important message, and I want to leave you with one more thing on this topic, that you get what you deserve. So one of the things I know is to be really true, and David said this, a different segue, you as an author who are listening to this, you have something to offer, you have something to give. In that book, it's going to change somebody's life, even if it changes your life writing it, right? And so we're in an era now where things are different. So how we can be socialized, how we can be made available. My job is to make that available to you. Your job is to take your special gift and put it in writing, because that is where we are as a humanity. And the only way to make that happen is, as Becky alluded to with her other book, is to take your gift and bring it to life. And that's what Becky does. And that's why I love working with Becky.
Wow, thank you.
I'd like to piggyback on that a little bit. Les Brown has a quote, I'm paraphrasing, about if you want to find the greatest ideas, and go to the graveyard, because that's where people have taken their ideas and their knowledge and weren't sharing it in writing their book. Mm-hmm. So it's important for you, if you have that gift, as Lorenzo mentioned, and you have the knowledge, to write a high quality book so you can share it with others and not take it with you to the graveyard where it then becomes useless.
Mm-hmm. I feel like in today's world, if more than ever, we have the tools and resources available to us to get our message out to the world and to stand up as an impactful influencer. And if it helps one person, wonderful. But it is really the many ones that it comes to help. But if you stay invisible, you're not going to be able to get that message out. But look at what we have available to us. And yes, COVID was a terrible, tough time for many in our world. And there's still issues with COVID. I know so many kids. We have 10 grandchildren, and all the parents are struggling with, well, the kids are home all the time now, and some have gone back to school, but the majority are not still not in school. And really all how incredibly our world has changed. And yet how blessed we are that if COVID was going to happen, it happened now, not 15 years ago, when we didn't have the tools and resources to do what we're doing. And we didn't have everything at our fingertips to still stand up and make a difference. And in that respect, every book to me is showcasing the art of storytelling. And storytelling is meant to reach hearts. Storytelling has been with us since the beginning of time. And yet there were times before COVID happened, you would go to a restaurant and you'd see entire families sitting there just looking down, and they're all on their devices and nobody's talking to each other. So what stories are being passed down to other generations? How do we stand up and lead and shine our lights and really make an impact and show there's a different way? And when we do, and we use the tools that are available, it's a ripple effect. By our positive spirit, by the sharing of our wisdom, by really being out there, it sends waves out, and it makes an impact in some way or another. And you never know. It's one person that could hear your message that shares it with somebody else. Maybe they didn't really feel they needed it, but somebody they knew needed it, who would have never found it any other way. And that's what we have available to us now. So we're really blessed. If there's anything that could, when we understand what could have happened if it had happened years ago, compared to what we have available to us. We have Zoom, and we have StreamYard, and we have the tools. We have Amy. We have digital business cards. We have mobile apps. We have all these other things that are available at our fingertips to get our message out to the world. And what better ways than to do it this way?
And the other thing with COVID, a lot of people are working from home now and are saving time on the travel. They're also having more time. Instead of sitting in front of the TV or boob tube, as I call it, and watching, sit at your computer or take notes and start writing your story, start writing your book, start, using the extra time in a more productive way than just sitting there, not taking advantage of it.
Not being productive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I love that, David. So I'm going to give a tip for those of you who don't know this. So I've got like a top 10 tips that I love on technology. But just for the record, your phone, right? Your phone, especially today, you can do voice memos. So you can actually start your book or your outline of your book or document that in your voice memos to yourself, and then text it to yourself or email it to yourself. And believe me, if you need to know how to do that, I'll share that with you. But just imagine that you just start talking through. So David, not only you're not watching the boob tube, so to speak, but you're creating a quiet, peaceful space and letting those ideas come to you, right? So I'm very much a believer in things happening for a reason. I'm very much a believer in things that you're here for a reason. And so if you can tap into that and say to yourself, wait, I'll just use my phone and voice myself and start talking about the kinds of things I want to do. Because it's the first step, just like in your weight loss programs, and when you and I talked about weight loss, and and you've inspired me, and we talked about this off camera. I've lost so much weight, but it's the conversation that I never forgot is the conversation I had with you, not anybody else that you talked about. Take a habit, build it, make it work. So you did inspire me, not your book, but you gave me a book. So again, this is a great example of all things coming full circle, right? It was your conversation with me. So simple tip. Voice your book. Taking action will start the ball rolling, right? The ball going down the hill doesn't roll until you push it. Push yourself to take that little voice memo and say, I want to write a book. Put it out to the universe. And that's my little gift for you today, because you all listening have something to offer. And again, rinse and repeat, because like David, he's so good at it. So I just want to encourage people to take that first step. Technology is your friend.
And also, Lorenzo, about that, I am blessed to live a couple miles from the White Tank Mountains, so I get to go hiking. Mm-hmm. I take my phone, and when I do, sometimes I'll have an inspiration or a thought. I will type in a memo to myself so I don't forget it, so I can use it. And it's amazing. For some reason, I'm technology challenged, so using the voice recorder I haven't mastered yet. That's why I'm easier to just use notes. However, it is a tool that I learned how to use and I'm comfortable with. So I love that tip that you gave people. And the other tip you said is get started. people ask me, what's the first thing you need to do to reduce weight in a healthy and sustainable manner? The first thing is get started. Most people procrastinate. They wait till Monday or after the weekend or after the holidays. And I'm sure people are doing the same thing with writing their book. I'll wait till after the holidays, after the weekend. I'll start on Monday. So start now. And
that there's also, just within Microsoft Word, if a lot of people use Word to do their typing, they now have a push a button and you can speak and it types for you. So, we didn't used to have that. And oftentimes one of the things, I have an author, he's so funny. I think we'll finally publish his book in June. But he's been working on it for 4 years now. He paid me 4 years ago, and he still hasn't got it done. But he's a doctor. He's functional medicine. He's really, really brilliant, man. And his business is just going so well. And he does a lot of remote type things with healing. He sends a device, and you hook it up to your computer, and he's able to determine how you're doing electrically on your body, and really helps figure out exactly what your body truly needs. He's just brilliant. But he will send me clips out of his book in voice memos. And I'm going, oh, please don't do this. This is like, oh my God. But it's still, those little voice memos have been so fascinating to me, because even though that's not how we're putting this book together, he's sharing some of these really good tips this way. And it's remarkable that we have that ability now. So, that the amazing things that are coming to our world and the wealth of knowledge that we can bring and the light that we can shine is just pretty fascinating.
Well, I'm going to plug in on that. There's more computing power in this device, Amy's by the way here, than there was on the lunar landing module. More computing power and capabilities in your phone today than there was in the lunar landing module. So you just have to see that the exponential explosion of opportunity, but find the niche. Like I love what David says, he takes his phone. I do the same thing. I used to start doing that. And now David, you'll love this. Well, TMI folks, but now I type my messages at night, because when I wake up at 3 a.m, I don't want to voice them because I don't want to wake my partner up. Like, oh, that's not right. But you just pick your lane, pick your way. I'm really encouraged by this conversation. Take action, people.
Oh, and the other thing is, like you said, sometimes I'll get an idea at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll get up and actually write it out on a notepad. If I don't, when I wake up, I forget it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll look and say, what was I thinking? And other times like, oh, this is really good. So you never know. The main thing is just make sure you get it recorded down somehow.
Voice and text. Yeah.
I'm working on so many different books that sometimes I just dream all night long about how we're going to get a book out. And oh my gosh, I came up with an incredible book launch plan that is working amazing, just in a dream. But there's times I wake up in the morning and I'm like, did I really get that book done? Wow. This and that, like, it takes me a while in the mornings to kind of reconnect, to figure out, oh, well, that was just in my dreams. It wasn't really that it happened.
One thing I'd like to share with the audience, Becky, and it's what you taught me, is you start marketing before the book is finished. Absolutely. And you need to start marketing at least 9 months to a year earlier, if possible. 6 months is ideal. You don't wait until the book is done and say, okay, let's launch it tomorrow or the next day or in a week or two. It doesn't work that way. So in addition to writing the book, start your marketing campaign. It's very important to do everything. It's a process. And again, Becky knows how to do that and guide you through it. And so I encourage you, and I also encourage them to contact Lorenzo with Amy to start saying forthcoming book.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because one of the first things we talk about is the minute you put pen to paper is the minute that you should be start your marketing. And by that, I say, well, and something that I do different than many publishers is we do the covers first. Because it just makes it feel real and tangible. But if they don't really know what to do with their cover, then we say, okay, put some ideas out there. Start the conversation in your social media. Tell them what you're doing. Talk about this book. make it live, make it real, get people engaged, because those are going to be the people that'll be on your launch team. They're going to be the people that will promote you. And then read clips of your book out live on social media, read them live. Ask questions, talk about, wow, I just couldn't, I have a real block today. I can't keep writing. I'm just really stuck on this subject. Let people be engaged. You would be so amazed at the support and the wisdom that somebody can share with you if you engage on social media, engage if you're blogging, engage if you're doing a podcast, talk about it. Because what people need now more than anything else is the realness behind it. They need the human touch. They need that to feel like they're part of something. And when you can say, this is what I'm experiencing, and they see that, wow, they're really kind of struggling today. But you opened up the door for conversation. And oftentimes that's the inspiration. That's the inspiration to go further.
Wow, there's so much to talk about. I want to say too many things, but let me just try to keep it simple. I love this. So a couple of things I really want to make people understand, and thank you, David, for your admission that you really need to plan ahead. What I have learned, not only me personally, but in working with a lot of authors, thanks to Becky and other business owners, it's the journey of getting the book together and writing it and making it happen is really key. So the marketing is one piece of that element, right? Part of that book journey. But the other part that's really important in what I believe in business is clarity of messaging. So your book is your book, but clarity of messaging from a marketing perspective. So as Becky starts with, so a little tip in reverse. So as Becky starts with the cover, I'm a recovering accountant. You have to start with the end in mind. And in accounting, we have to start with what are we going to report on? In the case of the book world, what's my book going to be about? So starting with the end in mind crafts the journey for you, crafts your marketing journey, crafts your strategy. So just to put a bow on this, I always ask my authors and my partners first and my customers first, what is it you want to achieve in the next 6 months to a year? The end in mind drives us back from a project management perspective. It drives us back from a marketing perspective. So just so if you're listening for the first time and hearing this for the first time, it's a cool journey all in itself, and you get to play all this time. And so writing the book is just part of that. David's done a great job at that, and Becky is a masterful coach when it comes to that. And again, I know because I work with her all the time.
The other thing I like to say is you have to leave your ego at the door. You have to be able to take suggestions and advice and be willing to be flexible with suggestions and possible corrections or changes to your ideas or your book or what direction. And there's a difference in type of editors. There's the content editor, and then there's the proofreading, which is the line editor. So it's important to have a professional editor who Becky can hook you up with to, make sure your book is the highest quality possible. And that's what I learned as a former divorce attorney. I used to tell my secretaries, if you want to change a pleading and make it sound better or read better, go ahead, because I want to look good. And so I leave my ego at the door. And I'm also a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. And so that's why I've been successful, is listening and being, open to suggestions and ideas from people.
That's really cool, because some of the times that I see my authors kind of stumble with it is when it goes to the editor. And I try to I have a whole team of editors now that I refer to, and I try to match them with personality wise, because that book is typically, it's been probably many times this years in the making, or at least months in the making. And then when it goes to the editor and the editor says, what were you trying to say here? But one very helpful hint that I always tell my authors, before you send it to the editor, take a chapter at a time and read it aloud. And you would be amazed at the inspiration you get from it, but also where you see the places that need to be some fine tuning. Because when you're slowly and deliberately reading that book aloud and putting the inflection and everything else that goes with it, all of a sudden you say, what was I trying to say there? Because our minds work differently when we're putting, we're typing things out and we're putting it all together. And we're in just kind of this flow once we get started that way, where we get into such a flow. And sometimes it doesn't quite translate on the printed page, and you will spot it and actually save yourself a lot of money when working with an editor if you take the time to read it aloud. The authors that do it are always come back and say, thank you for that. That's the best suggestion that they could ever have, because the editing piece is probably the most personal part of it. And you can't be thin-skinned about it, because it usually, these editors, that's what they do for a living. That's where their expertise is, and they help bring your book to life by maybe changing just the structure and flow of a sentence or a paragraph.
Or even a chapter.
Yes,
Rearranging the order.
Yeah. And one author it was funny, because she was talking about, do you know I said the same thing in 4 chapters? She didn't catch it, until she started reading it aloud. And then even then her editor came back and said, do you really need to say this 4 times in a row? But it was just something that was very raw for her, and very, very, she wanted to get her point across. And when their finished product, when they got done with the editing, was just incredible.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, this is a kind of tips and tricks. I mean, I was just laughing. We should go to another show, Becky, where the best top 10 things we've learned, in writing a book, because this show is so rich with those kinds of things. And I know just the second show that I've been on with you, Becky, the conversations always ebb and flow the way they're supposed to. And so what I really love about this, and what David said about being open, what I'm also catching on to is the idea of, as you read the book that you're just alluding to, feel your own vibration. Feel how that feels to you when you read it. So some people are auditory processing, tactile processing, but when you're reading it out loud, my other tip would be, how do you feel when you read it? If it feels good to you, very good chance it's a good thing, right? And if it goes right. So just, I love the idea of kind of riffing and brainstorming how to help authors. So food for thought. I'm loving this. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, this is just to the conclusion of our show. We invite those that are listening to reach out. David's got some great things coming up, and his also, Be the Health Exception is David's website, and then Lorenzo's is, you can reach him at Shapeshift World. And this is what the show is all about, is bringing to light the tools, the resources to help you as an author become very successful. And always know that the marketing is the most important part of all of what you're bringing to the world. But there are tools that you can bring to take advantage of that will take your message and reach the hearts, because without you being like spending 24 hours a day doing it. So thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, David. Yes. Thanks, Lorenzo.
All right. Well, thank you for showing. I hope that by listening to this show, it will inspire you to bring your messages to the world. And with that, we will conclude our amazing show and put on our closing music. And we will see you next Monday with our next 2 interviews. Thank you.
There were so many that lost their businesses during that time.